Tonight on News 5 Live, the star witness Jacob Kingston in the Lev Derman trial arrives in handcuffs in the Salt Lake City court. We go one-on-one with Hippolyta Novella for a report. A Coast Guard operation on Drowned Key has resulted in the arrest of 4 men who were found in possession of unlicensed ammunition and fraudulent documents. The family of murder victim Anthony Parks says that he was not killed over a drug deal. And the Central American Championship in table tennis is hosted in Belize for the first time. Details of these stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast.
In life, there's always 2 sides
Good evening. Welcome to News 5 Live for Wednesday, February 5th. I am Marlene Cuellar. The star witness in the case against Lev Derman arrived today at the court in Utah in handcuffs. Jacob Kingston is expected to testify until next week, Monday, since he has a trove of information that is critical to prove that Derman was involved in a massive money laundering. All eyes will be on Kingston because he also claims to have information that Derman's connections were well placed in Belize and that a government minister was on the take. Derman was issued with a Belizean nationality certificate in the name of Levon Termenzian in 2013. It is known he came to Belize and was seeking a diplomatic appointment to have immunity. Tonight, we go one-on-one with Hipólito Novello, who is in Salt Lake City for an update on the trial. Good evening, Hipólito.
Good evening, Marlene. Yeah, so Kingston appeared and entered the courtroom about 2:45 today's time here. He was heavily secured by security officers, I believe, federal agents, and he wore prison attire because he is in jail on remand, and he had pled guilty as well to those counts. He entered the box, and one of the things that the prosecutor first asked him was, who was Jacob Kingston? And he would be who he was in terms of his early years. He is a 43-year-old man. And one of the things that he is being charged with or alleged against him is the crime of polygamy. Now, Kingston, in an effort to lay the foundation for their case, the prosecutor went into the details of his childhood up to his adulthood and what he did to create Washakie Renewable Energy, which is the company involved in this huge tax fraud here in the US. He mentioned that he has a PhD in mechanical engineering, which he got from the Utah University. Also that he started Washakie in 2006. Now, today, the trial broke off at about 4:30 because of the snow and the weather here, and the federal judge mentioned that she wanted to accommodate the jurors in order for them to reach home safely. So they broke off at 4:30 this evening. Belize wasn't mentioned. I believe that the prosecutors haven't gotten to that angle of the case as yet. Yeah. What they're doing now is to lay the foundation in terms of how this scam originated since about 2008.
Now, Kingston's testimony is extremely critical in this case. He, in fact, took a plea bargain. Talk to us about, I know you've been talking with different persons on the ground and also paying attention to just how much they've been preparing for this particular testimony. Let's talk about the significance of what he's expected to share.
Now, Jacob Kingston is the witness for the prosecutors. He is the one who worked along with Lev Derman. He is the one who worked along with Joshua Wallace and other co-conspirators in this massive tax fraud case in the US. And it is his company through which the monies are funded through, and other several companies that was originated after Washakie and so forth. Kingston is to lay the foundation as to what happened since 2008, leading up to 2013, and the involvement of Lev Derman. At the end of today's session, the prosecution asked Mr. Kingston, how much involved was Lev Derman at that stage? Entire scheme. In 2008, he wasn't involved as yet. And they didn't go much into Lev Derman as yet because, as I mentioned, the judge wanted to break off. Yeah. But his
so they're going in sequence, in time.
They're going in sequence in terms of beginning at the start, since Washakie was created, the foundation, making sure that the jurors understand how this complex tax scheme got off the ground, and at what point did it involve Lev Derman.
And of course, what we all anticipate here is hearing the connections that they had, Lev Derman and also Jacob Kingston, with Belize.
Yes. So as we know that the prosecutors entered a list of exhibits, and in that list of exhibits, there's the text message allegedly between Jacob Kingston and Jan Saldivar. That has not been spoken about as yet. We do believe that the prosecution will touch on that since they listed out in the exhibits. Hopefully, that is by tomorrow. Kingston is slated to testify tomorrow, Friday, and way up to Monday. We are not sure at what point will the prosecutors touch on that Belize angle, but it would, I would imagine, establish that corruption angle to the whole case and that bribery case in terms of the whole Lev Derman involvement. Now, in terms of Lev Derman connection to Belize, we know that he got his nationality certificate in 2013. Interestingly, he has, I believe, family members in the court throughout the trial. And today, one of them approached me, asking me from where I was. I told him, I'm from Belize, and he goes like, he figures that I'm from Belize, and he says that he has been in Belize in San Pedro, this family member of Lev Derman, and he goes like, he's Belizean as well. So I asked him, do you have Belizean nationality as well? He goes, no, he doesn't have Belizean nationality, but he has been in Belize with, I guess, Lev Derman, and specifically in San Pedro.
Now you, of course, Hipólito, are there because this is a critical matter for us here at home. And while we have been getting reports from the media there, we really needed our eyes and the ears on the ground. So you can share, there aren't cameras allowed in the courtroom. Tell us a bit about just the demeanor of Kingston and Derman in the case itself, in the trial.
Well, as Kingston appeared in court today, he seemed very relaxed. He seemed very prepared in terms of what his responses would be to the prosecution's questions. In terms of Lev Derman, he is beside his team of attorneys led by Mark Garagos. He communicates with Garagos in terms of giving him instructions to object to certain statements or questions by the prosecution and the witnesses. Today, I didn't see Mr. Kingston looking over to Lev Derman, but I did see Lev Derman's piercing eyes looking at Mr. Kingston as he explained the early stages of Washakie and at what point did Lev Derman himself became involved in the whole scheme.
Now, what we have found in our list, in the documents that we have received so far, which includes reference to the text messages with Jan Saldivar, those are two specific references that we'll be looking forward to. But there are other documents or exhibits that should include some of the relationship that they had with Belize. One includes Lions Gaming Company and is also looking at property that is owned in the free zone. Tell me a bit about what you have found out about this so far.
Yes, not much have been said in terms of that specific details of the case here in Utah. As I said, the U.S. prosecutors haven't touched, are just delving into the Kingston case in terms of he starting out the Washakie business. But I want to point out that during the Prime Minister's press conference, he was asked about that specific piece of land. Unfortunately, the reporter back then referenced the wrong, the free zone. He mentioned the Benke free zone, but I believe that Lev Derman has property, I believe, in the Corozal free zone. And there's the Lions Gaming license that he was granted to run a Russian casino in the Corozal free zone.
Yeah, which is registered in Belize, in fact.
Indeed.
And I think one of the exhibits mentions the communication and the banking correspondence when it comes to that, to the Lions Gaming Company.
Yes, and we're hoping that the prosecutors will touch more on that in terms of Washakie International's and Lev Derman's transactions abroad other than the U.S.
Now, I know, Hipólito, also, you've been paying attention to some of the previous reports as well. One of the key things that I think Belize is awaiting to hear is the content of those text messages. And there have been some of those text messages leaked before, not the specific text message that we're waiting, which is the communication between Kingston and Saldivar. But you are aware, or you have shared with us, that in fact, even in the text messages, they seem to be talking in code. Tell us a bit more about that.
Sure. I believe on Monday, when I was on Open Your Eyes, I read an article by Fox 13 News here in Utah, and they had a PDF file on their website, an indictment against one of the Kingston family members. And it spoke about the co-conspirators here in the US and some individuals who were being bribed to interfere in the case in the 2018-2019 investigation. And it lists some text messages between Kingston and an individual one is what appears on the indictment. And they don't speak directly in terms of how they operate. They speak in code messages. For example, Kingston would message individual one and say, I have gotten the food for the dog food is ready. And he would reply, okay, I'll pick it up at some place and so forth. So in terms of those messages is coded, so you won't see a direct message or a sentence that would say, I have deposited certain amounts of money here you can pick it up in Miami or any sort of that. So we believe the text messages that Kingston is speaking about allegedly would not necessarily be straightforward. And we're hoping that the prosecution would point that out in terms of this code that these individuals are speaking with.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so we're waiting to see if it's going to be the similar type of communication that we see in the text messages between Kingston and Saldivar. Now, the testimony of Kingston is extremely critical in this case. He, in fact, took a plea deal, and he is expected to really build all the connections and lay out the foundation as to how the tax fraud took place and sharing the information on how they laundered the money. Tell us a bit about some of the other information that they're hoping to get from this testimony.
Well, what I can tell you is that for Kingston, he was scheduled to testify on Tuesday, and everybody's eager for his testimony. It will take days, as I mentioned, up until Monday is what the prosecution had indicated to the federal judge and agreed to by the defense. Now, Kingston is the connection to everything. Here's the connection to the point where Lev Derman began involving in this tax scheme, as well as other Kingston family members and other forces at different companies that were created to jilt the IRS of over $500 million of tax fraud. It is also expected that during his testimony, it will be revealed at what point or at what level the Derman got involved. And one of the things that they managed to establish, or were trying to establish in the other previous witnesses, is that Lev Derman, after 2008, called all the shots. He was the one behind, he was the moving hand behind the scene, if I can say, giving instructions to several individuals to collect certain debts from Washakie, to funnel monies to different companies, and to falsify documents, as well as to report to the IRS or to the US Treasury that they have been selling B99 or B100 biodiesel when they were doing no such thing in order to collect that tax on that sale. Yeah.
Yes. So the trial is expected to last for another few weeks, but Kingston's testimony, I believe you said already, is for the next few days.
Yes, initially what was reported is that trial should last between 4 to 6 weeks. Today, again, it was indicated to the court that Kingston would testify until Monday. Now, because of the weather, the judge is taking that into consideration in starting off about 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, giving Kingston the entire day, but they will break earlier to allow jurors to arrive home safely. And that is expected to continue until Friday to 1 hour delay in the mornings and about a half an hour earlier break off in the evening, and then they continue back on Monday. Again, we do not know at what point will the Belize angle be mentioned or delved into, and we're hoping that prosecutors would note or point out that those text messages and ask Kingston to explain what those text messages mean and what are the contexts of those text messages.
Okay. Well, we look forward to the subsequent reports. Hippolyta, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Marlene.
And there we had it. That was a live report by Hippolyta Novello from Salt Lake City in Utah as he follows the Lev Derman trial on behalf of Channel 5. Meanwhile, in the local courts in Belize City today, an application was filed with the Supreme Court which would add Lord Michael Ashcroft to the case submitted to require the Belize Elections and Boundaries Commission to undertake redistricting of area representative districts in the country. The case is focusing on the constitutionality of the current legislative boundaries. According to the Belize Constitution, all area representative districts should be of nearly equal size. Presently in Belize, there is a apportionment in the number of votes in the division, with the largest area, Stann Creek West, having over 5 times as many voters as the smallest area in Fort George. The current distribution effectively gives voters in the less populated areas, mostly in Belize City, a far greater share of the National Assembly members than those outside of the city. International norms for distribution of legislative boundaries and the Constitution of Belize suggest all districts should be within 10% of each other in terms of the number of voters. Currently, only 5 areas in Belize comply. A Coast Guard operation carried out in the vicinity of Drowned Key on Tuesday has resulted in the arrests of 4 men who were found in possession of unlicensed ammunition. According to Coast Guard personnel, upon approaching the fishing camp, one of the individuals attempted to flee the scene and evade the team of officers. They were subsequently able to detain him. Of the 4 men who were nabbed with 17 rounds of 9mm rounds, one of them was a watchman. That individual has since been identified as Clifton Young. Along with him were Maurice Jones, a fisherman of Conch Shell Bay, Nian Arnold of West Collet Canal, and Jermaine Anderson, also of Conch Shell Bay. Aside from being in possession of the bullets, the men were also found with an engine whose serial number for the vessel was different from the number listed on the seaworthy certificate. Their fishing license had also expired. Of note is that the area of Drowned Key is described as a hotspot for criminal activity out at sea. On Monday, we reported about the death of Anthony Parks. He was shot in Independence Village on the morning of January 22nd. Ever since then, he was hospitalized up until his death on Sunday morning. In her first report of the incident, in an interview with the media, Commissioner of Police Chester Williams said that Parks' shooting resulted from a disagreement with Shane Bennett, which they believed was over drugs. The family called us today to refute that theory. They say that while Parks and Bennett once enjoyed a close friendship, in recent months they had a falling out. They claim that Parks asked Bennett to vacate his home because Bennett was committing a number of thefts in the village and he didn't want to be a part of it. They say that Bennett got angry and threatened to kill Parks. Today, his common-law wife shared what she saw the day he was shot and explains why they are refuting the police's theory.
We in a bed the morning, I hear the person holler, "Boy, Brasta." Then he holler, "Tony." Then my boy jump up and my boy come out and my boy tell him, he said, "Please not bring your problem here because you know that now here we live." He said, "You know good where I live, please not bring your problem here." And he fire 4 gunshots at my boy and miss my boy. And my boy, the mistake with my boy that gone and turn it back. And when he turn it back, he get another 4 more shot. And then I come out with 2 elephant footer, quarter, whatsoever. And I stone it after, and then he fired another shot after me. The time my boy done up on the ground long time. And he bleed. Basically, I don't like the idea how Mr. Chester Williams got up on the news and said this is drugs related. Because this is no drugs related. This is somebody who grew up with we, raised wrong we. My boy take him after he called for jail. He cut my boy, chop my boy, send out of jail. Do my boy wallow, my boy still no report he. And my boy put he out because he the thief. Go about the places, go thief, and my boy not tolerate thief. And for my boy put he out after that, the war start. He say you're a killer anyway, me tell you a killer. My boy still not gonna report her. 2 weeks after that, he sent my boy to jail, say how my boy pull a gun after joint charge. And the person who charged my boy and send my boy to jail, that for his relative. And she tell her plain she no got time for investigate nothing. She did do her duty and she write up a charge sheet and charge my boy and send her to jail because she make it clear and say that who reach that station first get the upper hand, just like that she say. And they send her to jail. He come out, he gone, he dropped the charge for my boy, and like a week, 2 weeks after, he come, holler for my boy and shoot my boy.
Mom, why you think the police are calling this a case of a drug deal gone bad? Why do you think they've labeled it as a drug transaction?
Well, because they know my boy sell illegal weed from time to time, so like what I tell her, they not gonna ask me no question up to the time when my boy dead. No police for Mango quick go ask me no question, nothing. So they put it for their own way and feel like, oh, he need sell illegal drugs, so that must be half of the drugs. This is not half of no drugs, this is half of a thieving situation.
Coming up, the controversial Equal Opportunities Bill in the South. The church community strongly objects in writing to government.
Hello, my name is Jacqueline Burns, a Belmopan City Councillor and a delegate in the UDP National Convention. When I think of leadership, I think of somebody who's visionary. I think of somebody who is able to withstand any controversies and conflicts. And I think of somebody who has plans for our youth as well as our elderly. And so I am here today to
On Tuesday night, a pair of robbers targeted La Popular Bakery on Cemetery Road in Belize City. Reports are that at around 7:30 p.m., two men posing as customers entered the bakery. They both wore caps, possibly to conceal their identities. The men then approached cashier Esmeralda Sanchez and held her up at gunpoint. The gunman demanded money, while the other handed Sanchez a blue bag in which she was told to put the money. Fearing for her life, she complied and handed over an undisclosed amount of money. Police have obtained surveillance footage and are investigating this latest crime. Amending the education rules to reflect particular changes that are favorable to teachers across the country was a contentious issue for the Belize National Teachers Union. Prior to Tuesday's marathon session with the Ministry of Education, the BNTU openly voiced its frustration, saying that it will no longer be disrespected by the ministry where negotiations are concerned. Both parties were at a logjam over the number of contact days that teachers must have with students, the issue of continued professional development, as well as the hiring of teachers under emergency circumstances. In speaking with the media following the meeting, Minister of Education Patrick Faber explained the idea behind the number of days necessary for teachers to be in the classroom.
We need to find the 180 days contact days. We ended up saying that in order to see if that is the case, we will refer the matter to the Joint Staff, Joint Education Staff Council, which is made up of representative bodies that are actively involved. And they will determine if indeed, because of those 5 days, we will fall short of the 180 days. And if that is the case, then we will discuss how the time will be made up. If when we do the checking of the days, we see that there is 179 days, for instance, then only 1 day needs to be made up. And if we are over the 180 days, then those days can well be given. We don't have a difficulty with that. We pointed out that there may well be differences in circumstances at different levels and, of course, at different schools. And so the Joint Staff will be tasked with working out all of those details. So again, in short, the decision is for us to throw away the amendment and for this current school year, try to work out, if needs be, those 5 days to recover. If not, then, or whatever part of the 5 days we need to recover, we will seek to recover that in consultation with the BNTU and other stakeholders.
Proponents of the Equal Opportunities Bill, including the executive of the National AIDS Commission, the Special Envoy for Women and Children, as well as the Ministry of Human Development and Social Transformation, made their rounds in a series of countrywide public consultations last month. During those discussions, advocates of the proposed legislation presented the upside of the bill, but were met with staunch objection from some of the religious communities. While that piece of law is yet to be tabled before Parliament, several organizations have weighed in on the bill. The Belize National Teachers Union is the latest group to share an opinion on the matter, asking government to pace itself in respect of the consultation process. On Tuesday, National President Elena Smith told the media that the issue of the Equal Opportunity Bill was also raised with the Deputy Prime Minister, Patrick Faber.
We discussed that matter today as well, and the Minister gave his view as to how the process is going. And we thought that we needed to have a meeting with our members to discuss the matter. We still will do that, but at the point where the bill is right now, well, it has not even been approved via cabinet. And so there is still time, as we understand it from the minister, that there is still time. There's no need for us to rush to have a forum to discuss the matter. And as I said, when we get that final document, then we'll have time. He has committed to giving us the time to meet with our members to discuss that bill.
So, what are some of the concerns that you guys have seen where you feel that misinformation has been introduced into the conversation about this bill?
I think for us, for right now, it's just that the things that we are hearing from both sides, those who are fully supporting and those who are not supporting, are concerning to us as teachers because they will have implications for us and for the education system. And so for that reason, we felt that we need to give our teachers time to really read through the bill, get some understanding of what is in the bill, and then so that we can discuss and have a good discussion on what it entails and how it will affect us.
When consultations took place in the South, there was an overwhelming opposition to the proposed bill. Over 5,000 signatures have now been affixed to several documents circulated within the religious community where objections are being raised to the Equal Opportunities Bill. News 5 spoke by phone with Pastor Vic Hernandez. He is the president of the Southern Evangelical Association of Belize. While he stopped short of describing the movement as a petition, Hernandez said that the objections are based on concerns being raised by the church community.
We cannot accept this bill. Somehow we believe that given a 4 days notice before the consultation is really, that's not viable. You have consultation on a Wednesday and we don't get copy of that bill until a Saturday, which I believe is the same time the consultation started in San Pedro. So that didn't give us much time to go through the bill. But when we did go through the bill, we found several things that we could not agree with on that bill, right? One of them, we look at that, we believe that the freedom that we now enjoy and that our Constitution allows us to enjoy is in jeopardy. We also strongly believe, as people of faith, that this bill is designed to empower the LGBT community and to take away the freedom from our churches. Also, this bill is dangerous because it's empowering a commission and a tribunal, again, to take away that freedom. Then we have a problem with the definition of the word gender in this bill and the inclusion of the word sexual orientation. So when you look at this, there's a lot of, I would say there are some very good things in this bill, but there are also some other things in there that we have a lot of problems with. We believe that the partnership that has existed between our churches and the state when it comes to education is definitely in danger. We believe that. And so what we have done is we had a meeting with all our churches, our member churches. We sat down and we looked over it and we could not agree with it. And so we asked them to please go back to their churches and get people within their churches to sign on to what we're saying. And then we're writing a letter to the National AIDS Commission, which we did. On the 30th of January, we sent a letter to the National AIDS Commission telling them why we cannot support this bill. And attached to that was 5,136 signatures from 55 different communities and over 100 churches. And most of these were not only signed by churches, but they were also stamped by the alcaldes and by the village leaders in Toledo.
Tashawn Williams is back behind prison where he is awaiting a sentence for the charge of manslaughter and the stabbing death of Ethan Lamb. The accused is a cousin of the deceased and will learn his fate on March 12, 2020. Lamb was killed 2 years ago on February 18, 2017 on Antelope Street in Belize City. The Supreme Court will also sentence Ashton Thompson on April 23rd for manslaughter in the death of Dennis Williams. Williams was killed at the Three Stars Quality Chicken, where he worked on Vernon Street in November of 2012. Thompson and Stefan Jenkins were charged for the murder of Williams, but accepted manslaughter pleas. In the case of Jenkins, he was sentenced to 17 years behind bars. Thompson has been incarcerated since 2012, and in mitigation plea, he expressed remorse to the Williams family and to his own family. As we said, he awaits sentencing later this year. The brothers Tyrone, Ellis, and Shaquille Main appeared in the courtroom of Senior Magistrate Tricia Pitts Anderson on Tuesday and were charged for being members of a gang, specifically Bannack Clique. The Main brothers pleaded not guilty, and while they have been charged with all sorts of offenses in the past, the siblings now say they are gainfully employed. Tyrone is a tour guide, Ellis is a car dealer, and Shaquille is in the entertainment industry. The siblings will now have to apply to the Supreme Court for bail. After the break, Live and Let Live, a campaign to build consciousness on discrimination and what to do when you spot the bias.
Cutting Edge Media proudly presents Star Rush
A campaign is ongoing to build consciousness on what discrimination is and to encourage action when it surfaces in the homes, workplace, and other areas. The Live and Let Live campaign is focusing on marginalized groups, seeking to encourage neighbors to look out for one another whenever any type of prejudice is exposed. Here is News 5's Dwayne Moody with this report.
Today at the Biltmore Plaza, a Live and Let Live campaign spearheaded by the Managing Director of Right Insights, Dr. Minerva Pinello, was officially launched. Throughout the next 3 months, several public service announcements centered around discrimination, be it in the workplace, inside the homes, and even as a society, will be shared across social media and during local programming. Pinello says it is an opportunity to give a voice to marginalized groups.
The campaign is rooted in our values as a Belizean society, and it looks at how to bring, through a grassroots approach, an opportunity to sensitize the wider public and to talk about stories that persons have lived. These are personal journeys of discrimination. The campaign really will walk through the public service announcements that we will have through national airtime that can help everyone to reflect and maybe either relate or question or explore, some of the difficult conversations that we need to have. It also will look at a website that was launched today and that will continue to engage us, to connect us as a community, and to be able to share stories.
It is based on the Belizean premise of neighbors need to look out for one another. So the hope is for the PSAs to spark much needed dialogue on how employers and businesses can provide access to persons with disabilities or breastfeeding mothers and even members of the LGBTI community.
What we with today is, what is discrimination? And also another question is, what face does discrimination have? As you can see from our stories today, there could be a lot of talk about populations that are considered vulnerable or marginalized, but we still have maybe systemic changes to address that will help women, that will help persons who have diverse abilities to be able to live that life and to fulfill the dreams that they have.
In attendance today were representatives from the Belize Chamber of Commerce and Industry, as well as the National AIDS Commission and the Belize Assembly of Persons with Diverse Abilities. The launch featured testimonials from persons who shared their stories about being discriminated for varied reasons.
Persons with disabilities face discrimination at every level. It is always important for us to include our population in whatever it is that we're doing. And so today at this launch, we had 2 of our members that was here in wheelchairs. And so even today was a learning experience to accessibility. Discrimination is happening not only as it relates to accessibility for our population, but discrimination when it comes to health services, when it comes to education, when it comes to housing across the board, transportation, you name it. And so it's important for campaigns such as these to bring awareness to our issues and what can be the solutions.
While the campaign is championing a change in the way people are treated given their sexual preferences, religious beliefs, adverse abilities, and the like, there are similar tones to that of the controversial Equal Opportunities Bill, for which consultations have been held. Although parallel, Dr. Pinello says that this project is separate.
It's a very good time to have a discussion like this. It's a difficult conversation, especially in the wake of a lot maybe of the controversy that surrounds the bill. We've heard persons say, well, I like 80% of it, I don't like 20% of it. This opportunity is for us to explore as an employer, as a stakeholder, as a church leader, as a community member. What do we really need to do now to sit down and decide what is next? So this is not in any way a technical review. This is not a lobby for legislative reform, but rather saying, let us sit down and talk, and then we can make up our minds.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
The Embassy of India in Mexico has confirmed that 2 medical universities in Belize have been delisted by the Medical Council of India, following complaints that both institutions do not have proper facilities to carry out lessons with their students. The second secretary of the Embassy of India also went on to say that an examination had been conducted and that other irregularities against the universities in question are also being investigated. News 5 spoke with the Minister of Education, Patrick Faber, on the issue.
don't know that that is the case. I've heard the same rumors that you have heard. I delisted. What I've heard is that there are concerns because, of course, students sometimes go back and make complaints. I don't know. You'll understand as well that right here in Belize, the two schools are rivals. You've seen this already, where sometimes, as I've described to you the last time, they're paid mercenaries who go and work and criticize schools and create the mischief. Maybe that it is that mischief that has gotten its way back to the, maybe as far as the embassy in Mexico, and then later on to the Indian government. No, but I don't know of any kind of illegal practices on the part of any of these two schools. As far as I am concerned, both schools are properly chartered here in Belize, and when we are able to check on them, they are providing the services that they say they are providing. And I don't know about their delisting in India at all. There certainly has been no kind of official communication coming from the Indian government to our ministry or our government about any such thing.
Late this evening, the government issued a statement in support of one of its strongest allies. It involves the novel coronavirus, which has been detected in Taiwan. The statement says that a small number of cases have been confirmed in Taiwan, but its Center for Disease Control, it states that Taiwan's proximity to China, where the virus was first detected, warrants their full involvement in international consultations at the World Health Organization, where Taiwan has been excluded as a member despite its population of 23 million. It recognizes Taiwan's experience in global infectious diseases, which can benefit the entire region, and their voice and participation at WHO must therefore be guaranteed. Government also applauds the measures taken by Taiwan to support prevention and says it will continue to work with Taiwan to safeguard the interest and welfare for the people, and will continue to advocate for a voice and vote at the WHO at the upcoming World Health Assembly. When we come back, Dara's feeding program gets a special treat from Chef Tim August of Stone Crab Bar and Grill in Dangriga.
Our country's housing policy needs
Chef Tim August of Stone Crab Bar and Grill in Dangriga took over the Dara feeding program in Belize City on Tuesday. As you know, Joel Dara Robinson and his wife cook hot meals for 50-plus children from neighboring schools. Many of the children are from underprivileged homes, and oftentimes the only meal they eat is from the program. The feeding program, as we showed you a few weeks back, was struggling. So August decided to help out for the day. He funded and prepared the meals. We stopped by to check out the special treat. Here's the story with Andrea Polanco.
The students in Dara's feeding program got a special treat on Tuesday. Guest chef Tim August took over lunch for the day. August and his team worked to pull off a menu that featured his signature breadfruit fries for the 50 students.
We have prepared something very special. We know kids love mac and cheese and nuggets and fingers and wings, so we have prepared that along with others, and some nice bread pudding and some juice in the back. So we got up early this morning. We started out at 7 o'clock because we wanted to do everything fresh. So me and Ari and her mom and Juliet, we got up and we teamed up.
And by 11:30, the students started trickling in. August and his team served lunch and the students enjoyed their delicious meal, with most of them asking for a second serving. August says that he heard Dara's plea for help and decided to use his skills to contribute to the feeding program. He hopes that his kind act will encourage others to support this kind of grassroots initiative.
I heard Dara cry for a little assistance, and I'm not the guy that has a lot of money, so I'm just giving back what I can give, you know, which is, as a chef, I can prepare a decent meal, and I'm sure the kids will love what I do. Growing up as a kid, I didn't have these opportunities, and so I definitely want to change that for some, because I know there are some, you know, very unfortunate kids and that go to school hungry, and that shouldn't be. We live in a beautiful country where there's abundance of food, and you know, everybody should be living a good life. This is the month of love, and we can do something special. This is a good program to start.
Joel Dara Robinson was touched by the kind act. He and his wife got a much-needed break for the day, and they welcomed the support.
I welcome the bedroom and on the level of how he cook and thing, you know, and the kids there should enjoy one nice meal today. And I feel blessed, bedroom, for me half of Dara and the kids are benefit. I feel blessed.
Reporting for News 5, I'm Andrea Polanco.
So Chef Tim August was the guest chef for the day at Dara's feeding program on Tuesday. He cooked for and fed over 50 students. It was a special treat that Dara welcomed. As you recall, Dara was recently in our news because his program was on life support. The funds were dried up and he couldn't afford to continue the program. But since then, he has received overwhelming support, and today he gave us an update on his appeal for help.
Since I make the appeal, business and the common grassroots man and woman, everybody they try to reach out to me and how they could support, and many ideas, and I must say my wife feel that he could cook much comfortable. I don't have to tell her, like, girl, you know, we only have rice or meat, chicken, make we just continue. Use she know they try put the food as much health. We also have kids going at this program with diabetic, and she tried to know the different veggies and food where it could reach. So once we have the resources and the finance and the kind of food we could cook like that, you know.
You guys are no longer on life support?
No, found no con the first day and not gone up on the news. The area rep that the first one run con both of them. And then make sure that we continue, and definitely we know they for life support, and then kids will benefit. Definitely can tell the next 5 to 6 months and should all right. With the poorer support where they come in and continue still they come in. Even home and abroad, people they try for people they set up different things they try to get help.
Coming up after the break, Belize Table Tennis Association hosts a regional competition.
I am Diane Finnegan. I'm the bearer of the Lake Independence Division. For me, a leader must have
global perspective.
University of Belize and Ministry of Education held the Belize Tertiary Options and Opportunities Education Expo, formerly known as the COBEC Fair, in Belmopan today. The UB and COBEC University partners set up educational displays and booths for students to learn more about tertiary education offerings. The exhibiting universities and partners shared information about academic programs, fees, financial aid, student exchanges, application process, and other university experience offerings. Here's a snippet from today's program.
UA is a regional university. It's our university. That's one. Secondly, we are accredited. So when you get a UII degree or a UII certificate, you can take this anywhere in the world because we are an accredited university. As well, you're within the region. So let's say a student decide that they want to get their degree with UII and come and work in Belize for a while, but they want exposure. You have what you call the CSME, right? The CARICOM Single Market and Economy. They can actually get up and move to another country within the region, and they're able to access employment. And so that is exciting. Another thing I always tell the students, if they want to be exposed to a new culture, they can also decide they want to do maybe 1 year online and then go residential, where they can experience one of the islands where our main campuses are.
It's an awesome group of colleges around the world, 18 colleges around the world that take students right out of Fort Farm, and they get to go away and study in one of these 18 countries around the world. Depending on what scholarships we get offered that year, they go straight out of Fort Farm.
So how do students come about to uncover these opportunities and then apply?
All right, so UWC opens its applications every year, November to December. So students who are in third form right now have an opportunity to apply for this year's scholarships, because November 2020, a new set of scholarships will be offered. We already awarded 3 scholarships to students this year who are going to go away and study. 1 to India, 1 to China, and 1 to Wales in the UK.
A regional table tennis competition is taking place in Belize. It is being hosted by the Belize Table Tennis Association, and as many as 110 players will be competing. The local players are hoping to make their mark against seasoned and skilled players from neighboring countries. News 5's Dwayne Moody reports.
For the first time in Belize's history, the Central American Championships in table tennis in the male and female under 15, under 18 and the team competition, mixed doubles and singles categories are being held in Belize. Teams and their respective support staff from 8 countries, including Mexico, are participating in the 5-day competition, which began on January 4th at the Mexico Sports Center adjacent to the Marion Jones Sporting Complex in Belize City.
Quite a big event. We have about 110 players. We started yesterday on Tuesday. We should be finished by Saturday midday, so that's like 4.5 days, or 3.5 days, 4.5 days of competition. And as you can see, it's pretty packed. Each delegation has about 23 people in it, so we have quite a crowd. We had an opening ceremony last night, which went pretty well. Belize is we are honored to host this event. It's a pretty big event. People from the International Federation are coming in today, so they are also supporting the whole initiative that we're doing. Table tennis was dormant for almost 25 years. Before that, it was my time when I was doing this in other countries. So we started, and now we have started concentrating on the kids since 2013. So for me, this event is also important because this is about the kids, and that's where your development and your future champions come from.
The best of the best are competing for an opportunity to qualify for the Pan American Games. Earlier today, Belize faced off against the Salvadoran team and lost 2-3. A win would have automatically advanced Team Belize. But all is not lost, says President Arturo Vasquez, who is hopeful that some of Belize's talented players will advance.
We would have qualified at least in 4th position, and also we would have qualified for the Pan American Games. But let's see, we're playing Panama right now. Let's see what we can do there. The competition here is extremely high. We're hoping that in the individual, Tay Parkinson is a name that we have heard in table tennis for a while. Tay has won the under 13, under 11, sorry, not won, but he has placed in the top 4. So hopefully this year, he's the only one we have that's still under 15 at a high level. So we're hoping he will do well in that. And then we have David Shukmani and some other players that are hopeful in the under 18.
In between matches, we caught up with athletes Devesh Kukmani and Kelly Liu, who are both playing in the under 18 category. They contend that the players from the other countries are highly skilled, but they are putting their strategy to work in order to come out on top.
The other countries are obviously very strong, and we just aim to do our best and to gain experience from it and learn from the other countries, the players.
The competition has been very great. I had a slow start into the competition, playing against one of the top seeds in this tournament, Mexico. I competed and I ended up losing 3-1, but nonetheless I played very well. And today I had a very great start, beating two of El Salvador's top players, and I just played against Panama's best at the moment. Representing Belize, it makes me more confident, especially playing at home, rather than put pressure on me. So I take it more as confidence and I play better. To play against these guys, you need to think very smart. Each adjustment is very important. So you just have to play short and play more aggressive than the opponent.
Dwayne Moody for News 5.
And that's the news. Don't forget that tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/News5Live. I'm Marlene Cuellar. Thanks for joining us. And from all of us here at News 5, good night.